Hi everyone, what's up? Josh here with the 1Zpresso X Pro hand grinder. Now I want you to think, what if the 1Zpresso Q2 and the JX Pro had a baby? That baby would be the X Pro. Slightly smaller in stature and diameter and 200 grams lighter than the JX Pro. The capacity to the X Pro is close, which is maxed out at around 25 grams. And this time going with my personal preference of a leather-like grip. There's a little bit more softness to this over the rubber one of the JX Pro or the Q2, which is a bit more like wood. Other small additional details are the frosted lid, which feels less likely to scratch up. And there's also a grip on the bottom of the X Pro. And this is a nice touch. It ensures neither the grinder base or your table are going to get banged up. Now let's put the parent grinders aside for now, and we'll absolutely come back to a grinding comparison later on in this video. But for now, I want to touch on the grind adjustment, the burrs that the X Pro uses and its grinding performance, as well as the grinding speed. And as always, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, and it does also help our YouTube channel grow. With that, let's now get into today's video. Now the X Pro uses an external upper collar adjustment to change the grind settings, and this is by far my favorite way to change the grind on any hand grinder, as it just makes it so satisfying and straightforward to use. On the X Pro, when it is calibrated, the 0 point will read 0 on the collar, and then you have 60 grind settings per full rotation of the dial, 0 to 0, with 5 full rotations available. And this is going to give you close to 320 grind settings on the X Pro. Now, just like the JX Pro, the micron adjustment between each click is 12.5 microns, whereas with the Q2, I think it's 22 or 24. Now, 12.5 microns for espresso brewing, I found to be the most reliable, between having too many clicks, which is the case with the JX Max being 8 microns, and then also not being able to find that right setting for your flow rate, such as the case with the Q2. So I think they've gone really well choosing 12.5 microns for the X Pro. Now the X Pro grind settings will have 3 numbers to them. And let's take a medium setting for an AeroPress as the example. You have a 1.2.5. That first number shown is the full rotations from the 0 point. So if it were a 2 or a 3, then you would turn that dial 2 or 3 full rotations from 0 to 0. The second number, this represents the numbers found actually on the grind dial, and with up to 5 numbers available to go to. That third number, this represents the individual clicks between that second number, and there are 10 clicks between each number. So I would move 1 full rotation, move to 2, and then count out 5 clicks, and that's my grind setting. One of the downsides to the X Pro, and unlike the 1Zpresso Max range, there is no quick reference to the X Pro on what rotation you're on. So if you've forgotten it, then you're probably best to go back to 0. However, when it comes to calibrating the X Pro, this is by far the easiest 1Zpresso grinder to calibrate. It's so easy. Simply remove the crank handle and then dial the X Pro down to as fine as it will go. Next, pop off the adjustment collar. Just by pulling on it, it should come off quite easily. And align the 0 on the collar with the marker on the body of the X Pro, and then press the collar back down again, and you're done. No more unscrewing anything, no more thumb nut to deal with. It's so easy and such a great system to calibrate your grinder. Now, the burrs that the X Pro use are a 40mm stainless steel heptagonal burr. That is that they have 7 core blades rather than just 5, similar now to the current 1Zpresso Q2, providing really consistent grind distribution. Its greater impact is that there is very smooth grinding action on the X Pro, and it would be considered ideal for all brewing methods. From Turkish grinds, to espresso, to mocha pot, to AeroPress, to V60 and other pour overs, to batch brews, to French press and cold brewing. All right, let's now grind a full 20-gram dose of espresso beans on an espresso setting of the X Pro and see how long it takes. I'm going to a setting of 0.4.2. Now, 0 being that first number means there's no full rotations, so I'm going to adjust to 4, then count to 2, and we're at that setting. Really nice diameter with the X Pro. I think the JX Pro is 5.7 centimeters in diameter, whereas the X Pro is 5.2. It's a small difference, but it's a comfortable one. Now the 40mm burrs on the X Pro makes for a little bit slower grinding time, I suspect. I've ground a few doses out now, and I just find obviously with the JX Pro's 48mm burrs, it just seems to grind through a dose a little faster. We're talking a couple of seconds. Otherwise, the heptagonal burr on the X Pro, it's super smooth. Like, I never feel like it's getting caught or jagged. However, I do concur with other reviewers that there has been the occasion, because of the narrow entry into the burrs on the X Pro, sometimes beans do get caught inside the burrs and you're kind of like shaking it around, kind of like a Comandante. I have a similar experience with that, whereas where beans just aren't passing straight down through the burrs. But otherwise, really easy to grind. Like that's an espresso setting. That's a very fine espresso setting too, but no troubles. Yeah, sweet. Now, when it came to comparing this grinder to other 1Zpresso grinders or equally comparable grinders in the market for performance and price, I took the most recent Q2 with the 7 burrs, the JX Pro, the Knock Air Grind, and the X Pro, and then brewed an espresso on each, and here is my blind tasting. All right. Tasting 4 espressos across 4 hand grinders. We've got the air grind, we've got the Q2, we've got the JX Pro, and we've got what we're checking out today in the X Pro. Dialing in 4 hand grinders to brew 1 recipe and get all those espressos perfectly in line is very difficult, very hard. If you're not too sure how hard it is, check out this video up above. Very fun to do, but probably wouldn't do it again. Anyway, we're here. Gonna stop this spinning. Bada boom. Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. Let's taste these espressos. Gonna give them a gentle stir each. Better than tasting them one by one and explaining each one and what's in it. I'm just gonna boom, 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 taste all 4, break it down, and then perhaps see if I can guess which one's which. Now, I will say before I even begin tasting, I know the Q2 was the most difficult to dial in the espresso. Like, that wasn't a surprise. Getting that right grind setting for the flow rate I was after. A little tricky on the Q2, super simple on the air grind. Up and down with the JX Pro, but we got there. And with the X Pro, again, pretty easy to nail that grind setting down. Oh, it's a beautiful Ethiopian coffee. Super light and floral. I'm expecting a lot of sweetness, not much body in the coffee, but definitely some flavors that I should recognize straight up. I gotta say, this is interesting. They're all really close. Except this one. This one, it's a bit too something. It's balanced, but it's just not carrying what you would expect from an espresso. It's a little bit thin, but still sweet and enjoyable. This, very creamy, very textured, very sweet coffee. This, just thin, really thin, but otherwise quite enjoyable. Again, textured, creamy, really sweet, enjoyable, a little less textured, but just as enjoyable as these other 3. This one, clean. All right. Let's do this. This one's really thin, but clean. Sweet, juicy, enjoyable. Is it my best cup? Well, I like texture to my espressos. They need to be creamy, they need to be rich, they need to be heavy in that flavor, especially if you're gonna throw it into some milk, you want it to cut through. but not too bad still. These three, all textured, all sweet, really close together. If I was to guess, these are all the 1Zpresso grinders and this is the air grind, just because it's so much different, I guess. That would be my initial guess. So I know we went on they should be all colored. I've got red, yellow, green, and white dots on the bottom of these ones. Now, between these three, man, they're really close, but I would probably put this one at the tail end being the Q2 and this being the JX Pro and the X Pro. And it's really interesting, you know, how close these really are, to be honest. Let's just see if this is the air grind. Yes, it is. It's the red. Like I thought. For these three, red, it was, what did I say? Yellow, green, and white. I'm gonna say this is the yellow. Yes, it is. Boom. All right, that was the yellow because, yeah, it just didn't jump out at me in terms of its creaminess and its body. Now these two, honestly, really hard to split them apart. I would probably say this one on the right was the X Pro just because, I don't know, because it's a little bit creamier. I'm guessing with the Heptagonal Burrs, just a little bit better, I suppose, than the JX Pros. Though the JX Pro is a fantastic espresso grinder, I'm gonna go with the X Pro being the better grinder overall. White, I'm correct. And the JX Pro being the green. Wow, love the air grind. X Pro is great. Sorry, the Q2, it's fantastic. Makes delicious coffee, obviously. A little bit tricky to get an espresso grind setting on, but certainly for filter. The JX Pro, fantastic for espresso, obviously has those grind settings marked out. The adjustment is just a little bit old school. I think I much prefer the grind change as the exterior collar grind change on the X Pro. Wow. Out of these two, if it's going to be portable, it's going to be the X Pro. If it's going to be espresso, it could be absolutely either. This one, obviously, the JX Pro grinds through so quickly a dose. So if speed is your issue, then the JX Pro is going to smash through it. For filter, again, they're pretty well, I would say, inseparable, except perhaps the X Pro makes just a hint better in terms of grind distribution. Is going to be a little bit better because of that heptagonal burr. If you're worried about pace, I guess JX Pro. In terms of portability, well, you can't go past the Q2, but for precision, man, it would come down to these two, and I would probably be hard pressed if I was pushing a filter coffee for portability. I would really be split between these two. If it was for espresso, I would probably go the 1Zpresso Q. 1Zpresso, wow, too much coffee already. 1Zpresso X Pro. It's been really hard not to say JX Pro in this video. I just want to put that out there. That was interesting. All right, cleaning. Now in cleaning the JX Pro, adjust the dial from 0 to 2.5 turns. Then remove the grind adjustment collar and the catch cup, and next press up against the burrs whilst rotating that thumb nut either way until it slides off. And then that way the inner burrs and the drive shaft will drop out from below, and then you can give that grinder a full complete clean out. Place everything back into reverse after that, and when it comes to adding that thumb nut back in place, you will see that the drive shaft has a hexagonal shape up top and a round part below it. Whilst keeping the burrs pressed up, position the thumb screw down on the shaft so it can spin freely. Then line the dot on the thumb screw with a corner of the hexagonal shape of the drive shaft and slowly release the burrs back down to lock the drive shaft into place on the thumb screw. And then from here, you will most likely want to calibrate the grinder again. this being the most easiest 1Zpresso grinder to calibrate. Add the adjustment collar back on, dial it as fine as it will go, then remove the collar again, realign it back from 0 to 0 with that marker on the body of the X Pro, and then you're done. Fully cleaned and perfectly calibrated. And that's the 1Zpresso X Pro grinder for you. Now, it's portable, it's precise, and it's a very reliable grinder. And none of these really surprise me from 1Zpresso, as they are making some of the best hand grinders on the market right now. And honestly, this is a gem in the 1Zpresso lineup, much like the K Plus was. It's affordable, it performs fantastically, and it will at all brewing methods. So if you have any further questions on the X Pro, add them in the comments section down below and we'll get straight back to you. Thanks for watching to the end of this video, and we'll see you in the next grinder review.